In this video, I will talk a little bit more on the parts I use for my build, as well as the prices. As for the Montec Air 903 Max ATX PC case, I will leave out because that was just my pick for the build. You can always choose your own. I did go a little more in depth on the case on the build video. I will once again leave all the links for the parts on the descriptions below. For the motherboard, I went with the ASUS Z790V Prime AX Intel AGA 1700 ATX. Now alone, the board at the time of purchase was $199, but Micro Center offered a bundle for exactly what I was looking for $399, in which the CPU and RAM sticks was included. So as a guy who loves math, those numbers were a no-brainer for me. I won't bore you with all the numbers, just features which made it stand out, like 4 memory slots for RAM sticks, 2 88-pin DDR5s DIMM, compatible for CPUs, Intel i3, i5, i7, and i9, Celeron, and Pentium. Does have a water pump header, 3 system fan headers, and 2 CPU fan headers. Onboard Wi-Fi, the back panel had it all. The PS2 combo port, one Realtek 1GB Ethernet port, one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C, one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A, and two USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A, one HDMI port 2.1, and four USB 2.0 Type-A. For audio jacks, we had one 3.5mm microphone and one 3.5mm line in and line out. Has the Wi-Fi antenna ports, of course, and finally the dimensions of 12 inches by 9.2. For the CPU, I ended up with the Intel Core i9-12900K Alder Lake 3.2 GHz LGA box processor. As part of the bundle, I got a bargain. I was going to get the i5 at first, but once this opportunity was presented to me, I just had to take the bait. Initially, the processor at the time of purchase was $259.99. This 12-gen CPU had the capabilities of gaming, content creation, streaming, and video editing. Up to 5.2 GHz max clock speed and the socket of 1700, this bad boy comes with 16 cores, 8 of them built for performance and the other 8 cores for efficiency, 24 threads, 60 of them for performance and the other 8 for efficiency, 64-bit data width, processor base power of 125 watts. This i9 GPU with 32 cores just pretty much means it's known for its high performances and multitasking capabilities. Lastly, the specs are the Intel UHD 770. For cons, this model lacks AMD's 3dV cache for gaming, so may not be suitable for all games, which was fine for me because like I mentioned, I'm not looking to become a pro hardcore gamer. Playing Call of Duty Warzone is suffice for me, and it did not disappoint. Also red runs a little hot at its max, so let's not skimp on the cooling. I got 6 fans in my setup in a case with amazing airflow. So far, no problem. The GPU in my build is the ASUS NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Dual V2 overclocked dual fan 12 gigs. At the time of purchase, this graphics card was $299.99. Now I'm not affiliated with NVIDIA or getting any paid promotions, but I have heard a lot of good reviews and their reputation is top notch, considering NVIDIA just blasted their earnings with year over year at 78%. But anyways, not here to talk about the market. Real quick though, coming from a shareholder, they got to raise their dividends. What's up with that? So it was either Nvidia or their top competitor AMD. Both have their own strengths and weaknesses, with Nvidia offering a close overall performance in high-end scenarios with more higher-end chips. AMD has better price range if that's your calling. Back to my pick, the GPU has 12 gigs of video memory for handling complex graphics and tackles higher end resolutions. The GDDR6 or Graphics Double Data Rate 6 is a standard for high performance graphic cards. The 192-bit is how much data is transferred at the time from the GPU to the memory. With high and fast data transfers like that, makes a huge difference in gaming performance. My max resolution is sitting at 7680 by 4320. As for the ports in the back, we have 3 display ports, 1.4a and 1 HDMI 2.1, dual slot width, and an interface of PCIe Gen 4 with 16 gigatransfers per second. Lastly, the recommended power supply is 650 watts. The fans are very quiet, that's for sure. Now there are way more powerful GPUs, but I wasn't trying to go over budget. I had everything I needed for the tasks intended. For the power supply, I went with the MSI MAG A750GL PCIe 5 750 watt 80 plus gold ATX fully modular. At the time of purchase was $89.99. So a quick note, I highly suggest going for the fully modular, which means that it allows you to disconnect and reconnect cables as needed. It's designed to give you the flexibility and convenience. I probably would have had a lot more trouble in the wiring process, and there would be many unnecessary cables in the PC taking up space. For connectors, we have one ATX 20 plus 4 pin and two ATX 12 volt connectors. For graphic connectors, you have a total of 3 6 plus 2 pins, one 16 pin, and 4 Molex connectors, 8 SATA connectors, and yes, one floppy connector if you're a dinosaur. Not many youngins nowadays had that experience. I definitely have in school, so that alone shows my age. LOL. With a rating of 80 plus gold certified, it's definitely a higher level efficiency, especially for high performance systems than silver and bronze. They do have a platinum and titanium as well. Crossfire and SLI compatible. Has an input voltage of 100 to 240 volts and an input frequency of 47 Hz to 67 Hz. Lastly, dimensions of 5.91 inches in width, 3.39 inches in height, and 5.51 inches in depth. The CPU air cooler installed was a Thermalite Peerless Assassin 120 SE. Had a price tag of $44.99 at time of purchase. As shown in the install video, it's bulky, so that may be the only con I have. Has a compatibility socket of AMD AM4 and AM5, as well as Intel LGA 1150, 1151, 1155, 1156, 1200, and 1700. The heatsink material is aluminum and copper. Draws a total of 265 watts at max fan speed. Has two 120mm fan speeds of 1550 RPMs and an airflow of 66.17 CFMs. Has a fluid dynamic bearing for smooth, quiet, and low friction rotation, giving it a longer lifespan, sitting at a noise level of 25.6 decibels. The dimensions are 5.31 in depth, 6.06 in height, and 4.92 in width. Most of my TVs and appliances have always been a Samsung product, so I had no problem in going with the Samsung 990 EVO Plus 2 terabytes for my internal solid state drive. Once again, no paid promo here, just always had good experiences with Samsung tech in my opinion. This came with a price tag of $129.99. Samsung also offers a Pro version for $167.99 for your choosing. Reads speeds up to 7250 megabytes per second and writes up to 6300 megabytes per second. M2 factor, compatible with PCIe Gen 4 with 4 lanes and Gen 5 with 2 lanes for more bandwidth and performance with higher data processing. Lastly, for dimensions, we have 0.9 inches for width, 0.1 inches for height, and 3.2 inches for length. Finally, the last component to my build, also as important, was the RAM drives. I went with the G.Skill Ripjaws S5. I installed a total of 64 gigs of RAM. At time of purchase was $84.99 for a set of 2 sticks of 16 gigs of RAM. Reasons I went for the 64 gigs was because it was recommended for me working with RAM intensive programs at the same time. Examples like 3D modeling, 8K and 4K photo or video editing software. Also runs games at their highest resolutions with memory speeds of PC5 48,000 and DDR5's 6,000 MHz per second. And finally with a voltage of 1.35. So estimating a grand total of 1050 before taxes, insurance and the PC case itself, which was $89.99 at the time. I would say I have myself a very reliable setup exceeding my expectations for the tasks it's handling for me at the moment. I will once again post the links to all the parts I used for my build, which was all purchased at Micro Center in Paterson, New Jersey, which had a sales tax of 3.5%. If you're interested in seeing the final product, I will post the link below as well. You won't be disappointed, trust me. For more specs and warranty information, you can most definitely find the info on the links below as per manufacturer. Thank you all for watching. Over and out.